for the whole regime, the region, and for the people of Iran, should this be the end of the
Jewish Congress are the representative body of Jewish communities in over 100 countries, and we have Iranian dissidents and Jewish communities across the world. And as we saw here in our own country, in the UK, we saw the head of MI5 saying
the end.
It's impossible to tell, but I think this is definitely a very, very solid start. The way that I've observed the really degradation and destruction of missile launchers, of different military capabilities, and the symbolic value of decapitating the regime, I think really has, and in this region, symbolism is also huge beyond words, where this will be seen by IRGC and Basiji officials all over the world, and will know that, so to speak, there's a new Iranian sheriff in town, where the opposition really has the opportunity to seize their own country again.
And Efrat, what's your reaction to some of the remarks we've had from the leaders of European countries that they do not support the action of Israel and America?
Well, I think Israel and America's actions are very much within the national interests of European countries, of the UK. At the very least, we've seen that British and European allies such as Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar have all been hit directly today. And so this really is the time to show solidarity with our allies in the region who are thwarting and are a buffer against the Iranian regime, who also incidentally do have their sights set on hitting Europe. Some of their ballistic missiles can potentially hit European cities. So this is very much a European issue as well.
And obviously I have to ask this question, I know you're based in the UK. What do you make of the reaction from Keir Starmer so far?
I would welcome a more resolute statement, standing with our allies in the Middle East and also standing with our American allies. We have a very special relationship with the US, and I would welcome further embracing an action that really does serve our own national interests.
And why do you think we're not hearing a more definitive statement?
I guess for internal reasons. I don't know. This isn't something that I follow Iranian actions for. But I think perhaps the Prime Minister is wary of his own internal coalition. But now is the time to show strength, to show that the government of the United Kingdom stands firmly with its allies.
And just finally, if this regime isn't ended now, what do you think, if it carries on in one form or another with a new head, what do you think the future is for the Middle East and for the people of Iran?
I think that we have, as former Prime Minister Bennett said, the Iranian people have a historic opportunity. If this regime does survive this, I think it doesn't bode well at all for the region or for the international community, because of the instability that the IRGC and the Islamic regime spreads all across the world. So I think that all focus should be on regime change.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. That's Dr. Efrat Sofer there, who is head of World Jewish Congress Task Force on Iran and Islamist extremism. Okay, obviously please do keep your messages coming in. I appreciate it's a completely different show than we normally bring you, but it is a day full of live breaking news with the situation of Israel and America carrying celebrating in words from our Prime Minister. Okay, can I just go back to Mark White, who's in the studio with us? Mark.
It's just worth bringing you some of the comments
Please.
from the Iranian Foreign Minister before we then bring you some imagery, which I think we've got here, that shows the strike or the aftermath of the strike on the Ayatollah's compound. So the Iranian Foreign Minister, to me, it's slightly reminiscent of Comical Ali. Remember him during the Iraq War? You know, planes or troops. I see no troops. Well, they're...
Daerah, sir. Tanera, daerah. Sige, salamat kayo, sir. Thank you.
Ayo, ini ya. Apa yang boleh?
Just now confirming multiple deaths. Including Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. This is his compound. These are Israeli satellite images. At the top of the frame there, and I'll just describe it for our radio audience, is an image showing what looks like significant bomb and missile damage to what was a building within a sort of a garden compound there. And then below that is the before image, before those strikes took place. You can clearly see the intact building surrounded by trees and other foliage there. So while there is significant damage on that top image, what that doesn't tell you is how significant the damage might be below ground. It's possible when you have, of course, compounds, you have secure compounds, they can be deep underground. And if they're deep underground, that means they are protected from all but the most penetrative of munitions, such as US bunker busters and the like, that can go deep into the earth. So this, we're told, was a strike carried out by the Israeli military. They do have bunker busting capabilities within the Israeli military, but just how far they've been able to penetrate deep into the layers of this compound, we don't know. But they are reporting through Israeli Channel 12 that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is dead. It's also being reported through various officials, now being quoted by the Reuters news agency, that the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and also the head of the military, in terms of the military minister, the head of the armed forces, is dead as well. But you've heard there, as I say, from the foreign minister saying that's not quite the case, and he believes that all of the significant heads of the regime's military right throughout the region, it's not just of course the coalition of the United States and Israel attacking Iran. Iran has been responding very significantly with strikes on Israel, but also strikes on many of the Gulf and Middle Eastern countries where the US have bases.
It's quite an astonishing story. I just want to read this from Carl Bildt, co-chair European Council on Foreign Relations, before we go to our next guest, who has put out a tweet saying the regime in Tehran is abhorrent. The attack is still a clear violation of international law. You don't become a saint because of the sin of others. Interesting comments, and it's an ideal opportunity to bring in our next guest, which is US foreign policy analyst Dr. Jack Clayton. Jack, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. As I'm asking everyone, we're talking about this initial response to what's happened today.
It's extraordinary. I think that this was certainly building up. Trump sort of almost put himself into this position by sending the fleet, and with really no progress being made in negotiations, he almost backed himself into a corner to do this.
He seemed, I mean, the statement he put out today on Truth Social, obviously very, very strongly worded, even saying that Americans will potentially lose their life in this, in the forces going in. Do you think he has the backing of the American people in this? He did come in as the president of peace, didn't he? I'm stopping wars.
Absolutely, and I think that there is a lot of opposition in the United States to this, now military action and what's looking like a broader conflict throughout the region. Like you said completely correctly, he won the 2024 election, and a big part of that reason was because he said that he would end forever wars and keeping the United States out of the Middle East. And this is something that could potentially be really quite damaging, at least domestically, for him when it comes to the midterms later in November this year.
Yeah, those coming up fairly rapidly, isn't it? Now, we have spoken to many people, Iranians, that say, talking to their friends and family who are still in Iran, and they are celebrating this. They think this is the best thing that's happened. They've lived under the Islamist regime since 1979 when the Shah was deposed. Life for them is not good. In many cases they're starving. They've been tortured by their own, by the people in charge. They're not living a good life. They are celebrating this. So surely the world, I've just read out that statement there, that this is, many European heads are saying this is wrong. But surely if it's what the Iranian people want, it has to be the right thing to do.
Well, firstly, to be clear, the regime of Iran is, of course, brutal, and we've seen that since 1979. And the people of Iran have been incredibly brave in the recent protests that we've been seeing. The question, though, really is, as so often in these kinds of foreign policy decisions, is what comes next. I do think that words of wisdom came from now the late Colin Powell in terms of the Pottery Barn rule. You break it, you buy it. And really we're not completely sure what the next political development will be. We've heard, of course, Iranians say that they want the son of the Shah to come back, but people like David Petraeus out in the US have said, well, that's actually more, if anything, anyone but the Ayatollah. So this political situation is really very uncertain, and actually it may well need US troop deployments in Iran to do that.
This is what we were talking to the former Prime Minister of Israel. Obviously, you've started this, so it's an aerial bombardment. The IRGC are very heavily armed. We know that. They're brutal. They have no mercy. They've already slaughtered potentially over 40,000 of their own people. The Iranian civilians have no weapons. They're armed with their desire to fight and their fists.
Yeah.
So if the situation arises where they do need support on the ground, how acceptable is it going to be internationally for, boots on the ground?
I would imagine it would get a lot of condemnation. Obviously, you mentioned that there has been criticism by parts of the international community about it violating international law, as they are saying. But I think also it's really about the uncertainty of what would happen next. And it's actually worth perhaps thinking about the fact that and I do hesitate to just immediately draw analogies, but if we do think back to the 2003 Iraq War, the Iraqi military by that point had actually been severely weakened by the 91 Gulf War. Now, obviously, the United States does have the strongest military in the world, and it could certainly take out the Iranian military. But there is a risk that there could be something more protracted, certainly more than Iraq, and that's even before the actual regime is then removed to have to bring political stability to the place.
Okay, volatile times. Thank you very much. That's Dr. Jack Clayton, there's US foreign policy analyst. Thank you very much for joining us today. Okay, now let's go back to our national reporter, Will Godley, who is on the streets of London with Iranians protesting for the return of their country. Will.
Yeah, Dawn, good afternoon to you. There's been many British Iranians speaking on stage here, talking about the Iranian regime, talking about what we've seen today in Iran, and many people hopeful upon hearing these reports that the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini is dead, but wanting to wait for official confirmation here before beginning to celebrate. I can speak now to Ali Taransari, one of the people who have spoken on stage today. Ali, what do you make about these reports?
Yeah, so it's too early to celebrate, obviously, and our job is not finished here. Our job is not going to be finished by the disappearance of Ali Khamenei. The whole regime must go. What people have been chanting and protesting for the recent months is for the regime change in Iran and under the leadership of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi.
What impact would this have if the Ayatollah has been killed? Will that bring change in Iran?
Yes, of course. He's the head of the snake, as it's been mentioned for the past many years. So he must go. Obviously, it would be great for him to stay alive and face justice in the court of law. But there are several elements within the regime that they must go. And as President Trump has mentioned, he has asked the military personnel to put their arms down and surrender themselves. And that would be the best outcome for them, for the country, and for the whole world.
We've also heard President Trump today call on the Iranian people to topple the government there in Iran. If the Ayatollah has been killed, does that make their job much easier?
Yes, so I think it's not about President Trump asking the people of Iran to topple the government. People of Iran want to do this. They have wanted to do this for the past 47 years. It's only that the opportunity has emerged now. It is sad to see that tens of thousands of people got killed in the process. So people came out after Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi called upon them to come out to the streets. It's never been about President Trump asking the people to come and topple the government. So people of Iran will topple the government, and they're very thankful for the help that the Americans and Israelis and anyone else around the world is providing to them.
And Ali, as the march begins to move towards the Iranian embassy, the strikes we saw this morning in Iran, we understand the UK wasn't involved in those strikes. What do you make of the fact that Britain wasn't involved?
Yeah, it is a big shame for the UK government and Sir Keir Starmer that they took no stance in this process. It is a big shame, and they put the British public at risk by not prescribing IRGC long ago, and we've been asking for this for many years. And even in the recent weeks, after the EU Parliament prescribed the IRGC, it was